Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I decided that I would do a Q&A video today. There have been a lot of questions that a number of you have raised, and I had an email submission form on my website for a few months, and also some of you have emailed me or sent me messages on Instagram or also left me comments on YouTube. So I thought I would try and answer some of those questions. Some of them may have already been answered before, but I thought I would address them in this video. The first question I have received is, how many custom pens do you own in your collection? Because I haven't seen any recently. Here are my custom pens, and I currently own 10 of them. So these are Atelier Lusso Carinas, and these are Atelier Lusso Andromedas. That's from Eric Sands at Atelier Lusso in California in the US of A. And then this one was made by John Twiss of Twiss Pens in the UK. The next question is, how many Pelican pens do I own? Well, as of the recording of this video, I actually own 5 Pelican pens. Now, I did have a Pelican M800 Renaissance Brown and also a green Pelican M1000, but I sold those in the summer of 2019, so I'm down to 5 Pelicans at the moment, although I'm sure that I will be adding at least a couple more, if not more, to my collection very soon. The next question I received was, how many bottles of ink do I own? Well, I actually own a lot of bottles of ink, and I can show you just a few bottles here. I do have a lot. So in terms of the amount of ink that I have 299 full-size bottles of ink. And yes, that is too much. I have since capped the ink bottles that I have at 299 because I really do not want to reach 300. It is surprising the amount of space that ink bottles take up, and I kind of wish sometimes I would have gone the sample route, but most of my nibs are larger nibs and they won't fit in sample vials, or you've not got enough ink to be able to suck up into the pen. I did, when I was reaching 100, say that I would never go above 100 bottles of ink, and then I very quickly went over 100, and when I got close to 200, I said I would not be going over 200 bottles of ink. And now I'm closing in on 300 bottles, so I will not be buying any more ink until I have emptied some of these bottles of ink. 299 bottles of ink, if they were all full, just to put this into perspective, is 16,500 millilitres of ink, or 16.5 litres. So if you took 16-litre bottles, then that is how much ink that I have. Or if you wanted to take a 330mm sized soda can, then you'd be looking at around 50. So that is a lot of ink. The next question that I have received is, how many different nib grades do you have in your collection? Well, I don't typically like extra fine nibs. I do have 2 extra fine nibs. In terms of fine nibs, I have 24. Medium, which is, I'd say, mostly where I would sit, would be 81 nibs. I have 2 architect grinds. I hadn't actually realised this, but I now have 40 broad nibs. I have been going down the broad nib route a lot. I have 1 double broad, 1 1.1mm stub. I have 12 1.3mm stub nibs, and they are all Visconti nibs. 23 cap Palladium nibs as well, and I have 8 1.5mm stub nibs, which are typically steel nibs, and mostly I would say TWSBI nibs. The next question is why don't I like extra fine or fine nibs? Well, this is something that I've mentioned on a lot of my videos. I do like fine nibs, and I do have, as I just mentioned, 24 fine nibs. However, typically I find extra fine and fine nibs to be more narrower than I actually like, and more chance of being scratchy out of the box. And this is just purely down to my experience, but I know a lot of people have also commented on the same thing. The other thing is I like to see how the ink hits the page and how it pulls on the page. So the more wetter the nib, the more wider the nib, the more ink that gets put down onto the paper, and also the more that the nib will then glide across the paper, is why I prefer medium and broad and stub nibs in my collection. The next question is, why did I get into collecting fountain pens? Well, I always liked them and wrote with them when I was a teenager, and I used fountain pens whilst I was in school. Sadly, I did lose my way a little bit in my later teens, and I stopped using fountain pens. I just hated the ink leaking, the ink getting over your fingers, the ink smudging. Typically everything that people hate about fountain pens, although some people do like it. And I must admit, over the years since I've started collecting again, it's something that I've learned to embrace. That is just something I only rekindled my youth going back to fountain pens in my early 40s. And the next question is, how many years have you been collecting fountain pens? So I started collecting in June 2016, so as of the making of this video, I have been collecting fountain pens for 3.5 years, and as I have previously mentioned, I have 170 fountain pens in my collection. The next question that I get is, would you ever sell your entire collection or any particular pen? And the answer is yes. I have sold pens in 2019. I tend to normally buy pens, the pens that I want, the pens that I like. Now and again, there are pens that you fall out of love with, and I did sell 20 of my pens in the summer of 2019. I doubt personally that I would sell my entire collection unless I absolutely needed to, but I will sell pens that no longer interest me, so they can go to a good home. And I'd rather the pens get used. With 170 fountain pens, I do find it difficult to rotate and use every single pen. So where possible, if I have fallen out of love with a pen, I'd much rather it goes to a good home than sit and not be written with. And if I was to be honest, out of 170 fountain pens, I can probably only rotate on an annual basis or daily basis throughout the entire year, probably about half of that collection. So about 85 pens. So it is difficult, and there are pens that I don't write with a lot, and there will come a time where I will sell more of those pens. So that's the Q&A for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have any more questions that you would like answered, do please leave them down below. I'll try to answer them, and maybe I'll do another Q&A video if you like this video. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.